Hey, Jason here. Podcast number 3. It's Friday night, and I've got some dinner reservations. So I thought this was a wonderful time to discuss a topic that one of my current clients has been asking me about recently, and that's how to handle social situations. You're on the program, you're counting macros, you're trying to make sure that you're continuing to make positive progress, and something gets thrown into the mix. Whether it's a social dinner with friends, or it's a work party, or you just end up in a scenario where there's food that you hadn't necessarily planned on eating. Or maybe you knew that you were going to be in a situation where there's going to be all kinds of tempting foods and things are going to be difficult for you. So a few thoughts. Everything in moderation is certainly a good rule to live by, and that's not only a good rule to live by as far as food goes. I actually had a post on my website, anymanfitness.com, this summer, and it had talked about how it was barbecue season, it was 4th of July, and we all know the social stigma that comes with dieting. There's a very real thing called fit shaming, or diet shaming, and when you are actively attempting to lose weight, it's funny after you really start paying attention to others around you. Not that people aren't happy about what you're doing and the fact that you're trying to make a positive influence on your body and your well-being. But it's odd because you almost get a sort of negative resistance and negativity from others because of it. People, for whatever reason, always want you to consume and consume large amounts of food. So the first thing that I want to say is you're going to have to learn at some point to develop the skill of saying no to people and making sure that you can separate food from love, making sure you can separate food from acceptance. If someone is genuinely offended because you will not try the food that they have, that seems silly. And it's a skill that not everybody fosters. It took me personally a very long time to learn how to just tell somebody, no thanks, I'm good, and just tell them, hey, I just don't want to eat that right now. So that's one side of the coin. But on the other side of the coin, you don't want to be a person that is stuck inside your house counting every macronutrient with a scale or with a cup. You want to have a social life. You want to be able to succeed in those scenarios as well. So you want to make sure that you're flexible, and again, moderation is the key. I will say that there's an adage that abs are made in the kitchen, and that's oftentimes the case. Even though restaurants might have nutritional information online, you never know when the cook has thrown an extra dab of this, an extra slab of that, so on and so forth. Really, your best bets if you are eating out is to eat at the big chains. I know that's not a whole lot of fun, but since there is a standard at the big chains, their cuts of meat, their portion sizes, the cooks often weigh things in the big chains because there are so many of those restaurants nationwide. Just the slightest little bit in variation in the different food amounts can cause a drastically different bottom line for those companies. They have very strict protocols that they adhere to. So you can trust those nutritional information numbers much more quickly or much more with much more confidence than you can your mom and pop places. A lot of your mom and pop places don't have nutritional information, but I will say that you would be hard pressed to find a restaurant in 2013, almost 2014, that doesn't at least have an online menu. So you can at least jump on there and you can take a look, and if you feel comfortable with it, just estimate, give it your best guess. You got to be careful of things like sauces and dips. It is true that you probably want to get dressings on the side, use them very sparingly. You'd be surprised at the number of things that restaurants throw butter into. I mean, you can order steamed broccoli and you'll realize that it has like 15 grams of fat. You're wondering where the fat is in broccoli. It's because, they throw some butter and salt on there because they want you coming back. If you have steamed plain broccoli and you take a bite and you say, hey, that tastes like steamed plain broccoli, then you might not want to come back there. But obviously, all those extras make it taste wonderful, aren't necessarily good for your waistline. a few tricks to some other scenarios. You probably have seen my holiday eating guide. If I know it's like a Thanksgiving or a Christmas or maybe like a New Year's Day or something like that, there's going to be a big, huge meal, I'll just fast for the whole day. And I'll make sure that on my meal I get plenty of protein and make that the dominant macronutrient. On those days, if you use that strategy, will you go over? Maybe. A guy like me who has a ravenous appetite, yes, I will go over, without a doubt. But it's one day, and you really shouldn't worry about it too much. And even if you're in a fat loss protocol, it's one day, and you shouldn't worry about it too much. Just get back to it the next day and take care of business. Now, what if it's not something like that? You're not going out to eat at a restaurant. You don't know what the food is going to be. Maybe it's like a party at somebody's house, and it's not a scenario where you're able to just fast all day. A strategy that I've employed on numerous occasions, and I've advised a few clients to do so as well, is simply create a buffer and not worry about overall macronutrients for that day. Those scenarios don't happen all too often. But what I mean when I say create a buffer, let's say you have a lunch and a dinner split, and you have 60 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs, and 30 grams of fat, and those are your lunch numbers. And your dinner numbers are, let's just say the same to make this simple, 60, 30, 30, with protein, with carbs, and with fat. To make a buffer, what I might do in that scenario is I would eat my regular lunch, but I would eat it as low fat as possible. So instead of going 60, 30, 30, I would go 60, 30, 0. And then I would just eat dinner and be sensible about it. Those 30 grams of fat that you are not eating at lunchtime, 30 grams of fat times 9 calories per gram gives you an extra 270 calories at dinner on top of the calories that you already have, and it leaves you a nice little buffer. The reason that we do that in fat is there's a couple reasons. First off, if you're going to a dinner party at somebody's house, chances are very high that there are going to be some fat-laden dishes, so you're probably going to get your fat in at dinner. I wouldn't worry about hitting that number. And the other reason is that fat simply has more calories than the other macronutrients. You can shortchange your protein a little bit much, but there's only 4 calories per gram. Same with carbohydrates. There's only 4 calories per gram. But the fact that there's 9 calories per gram, over twice as many calories, means that you can cut off those 30 grams, same number of grams, but you're saving over twice as many calories for dinner. Now, if you do that in that scenario, I would hit up the protein first. That's just a good rule of thumb forever, is to hit up the protein first. It leaves you more full. It helps with muscle preservation. It has a high TEF, thermic effective food, meaning that your body burns about 1/4 of the calories that it processes from protein. So keeping protein high literally forever, unless you have some strange kidney issues or something like that, is just a good call. So eat dinner, make protein the dominant macronutrient on your plate. Be mindful of your carbs, and don't go crazy on dessert. If you employ that plan and then for dessert you eat 5 pieces of cake and a bowl of ice cream, yeah, you're going to go over on your calories. But as long as you're sensible and you eat a normal-sized dinner, then you're going to be totally fine. There's certainly a hierarchy to all of this stuff, especially when it comes to fat loss. And the most important part is actually not macronutrients. Your most important part is total caloric intake. That is number 1. And if there comes a time where just for a day you don't hit your macronutrients, it will do nothing at all. And as I've said from the beginning, being under maintenance is what causes weight loss. You can eat straight up Skittles and Twinkies. As long as you eat under maintenance, you're going to lose weight. So if you're trying to shed fat, as long as you stay under that caloric maintenance intake, you're going to be just fine. So it goes total caloric intake, and then the next most important thing is your macronutrients, making sure you get your proteins in, your fats, making sure that your carbohydrates are tailored around your workouts and whatnot and used for what they need to be and whatnot. So you get your total calories. The second place is your macronutrients, and third place is the timing of it all. The timing of it is less important than you think. I think pretty much the most important part of the timing is making sure that you get enough calories after you work out so that your body recovers, especially if you're doing heavy barbell lifting. And that's really your mode of importance. Remember, your health is the sum of all parts. It is not the function of just one. And it's the holiday season, so I'm sure that people are going to be going to lots of parties and eating out at various restaurants and enjoying all sorts of tasty, delectable treats. So just use your head, and you know what? If you wake up on January 2nd and you have maintained your weight, that's better than 99% of the people out there. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope that gives everybody some strategies as far as what to use in the future. And take care until the next one.